Hey guy, wanna join our posse? Bring us some eggs.
Oh my god, what have I got myself into? Hey everyone, I'm at a standstill. I don't know what game to play this week. I have tons of games, but I just can't make a decision. Although, there is a Hellboy movie coming out later this week, so now would be a good time, I guess, to take a look at Hellboy on the Famicom. Yeah, bootleg game. Yeah, let's see how this is. Oh, it's just a Famicom version of Conquest of the Crystal Palace. Well, that's a pretty good game, but what does that have to do with Hellboy, really? Yeah, let's get on to something more interesting. Maybe I should play a PS2 game. A PS2 game would be good. You know, I have a lot of PS2 games, and most of them are either the classics, the must-haves, or, you know, the titles that aren't really worth a second look, like, you know, sports game. But every once in a while, I've run into a PS2 game that's just weird, and it sticks out like a sore thumb. And then I wonder how it even got there. This is Dog's Life. And based on the cover, I'm really not sure what to expect. But hey, there's a screenshot of the titular dog pooping on the back. So your guess is as good as mine. But heck it, I'm curious, so let's see what this is all about. Dog's Life is a game that was released exclusively onto the PlayStation 2. It originally came out in 2003 in Europe, and then it saw a release in the US a year later, and then a year after that in Japan. The game was released by a company I've honestly never heard of, but apparently was somehow involved with some roller coaster tycoon games. And it was published by Hip Games in North America. Yeah, that sounds like a promising company.
I'm Jake, and this is my life. No school, no chores, no clothes. How cool is that? Ah, yes, it's great being a dog. Watch this.
Oh god. So you play as a dog named Jake, hence A Dog's Life. He's full of like witty comments. He's like a failed 90s mascot or something.
Woohoo! I smell underpants.
Your objective in this game is basically that Jake has to rescue his canine significant other named Daisy, who's taken away by dog catchers. The game is fairly open world, and you can complete objectives at your leisure. The controls in this game are kind of weird, but I think they were trying to go for semi-accurate dog physics. I'm not sure. But in this game, there's 3 main hub worlds, each of which has a bunch of different parts in it. You start off on a farm in a place called Clarksville, and basically throughout the game you have to collect bones in this, similarly to stars in Mario 64 or something. An interesting mechanic in this game is that you can go into a first-person mode where Jake has to smell aromas to uncover more objectives. They call this smell-o-vision, a term I heard way too much in the 1990s. Each section has 4 or so unique colored scents that you need to collect. Every time there's 50 pink ones, but the other ones vary by area, and I'll get into some of them as they arise. In addition, each section typically has random objectives to help people in the respective settings. Usually there's a fetch quest, no pun intended. The first part of this sort is that you go to a dock and you meet up with this hippie guy who's playing guitar, who needs batteries for his amp, which he lost all 4 of them in random places. The voice acting in this game is just wonderful.
Cool, dog dude. You are the man. Here you go.
These objectives are luckily not entirely blind, as you can use your smelling abilities to track the items via footprints and whatnot. Yeah, these missions are typically pretty tedious, but they're harmless enough. It's okay. Now, let's get into these sets. They mostly lead to stupid minigames, often resulting in acquiring an ability to possess another dog, I think. These other dogs can pursue objectives that Jake's breed cannot. Unfortunately, most of the minigames are pretty horrible. The most common ones are a minigame where you have to run and dig holes faster than the other dog. It's pretty easy, it's just standard button mashing. And then there's also this awful minigame where you have to pee on corners of the square and cover more area than your opponent. They're pretty unplayable, honestly. The digging one's not so bad, but the peeing one, it's just so poorly executed. You have to be exactly spot on the corner to do it, and if you were even like a pixel off, then it just doesn't let you pee, and it just stops you for a second. Thankfully, you only need roughly a little more than half of the bones in the game to actually progress to the end, so I tended to skip these ones altogether. After dealing with all those minigames and getting that guy his battery so he could shred on the dock, you then have to wake up Grandpa.
Oh, Jake, that ain't fair.
Jake, you bad boy.
Yes, sirree, Bob. Ooh.
Some of the objectives to get bones are definitely very simple, although later on they get overly complicated. Some bones are also just simply hidden, whether it be in a trash can or just buried underground, where you can find them via your smell. The next area is a big field where you have to encounter this sheep herding dog who sucks at their job. You gotta possess the canine to get the sheep into the fenced area. And to possess the dog, that means playing one of those stupid peeing minigames. You could even herd the sheep as Jake, but the jerkwad farmer won't acknowledge the effort unless it's his dog that performs the duty. I find it kind of funny that every time a job is performed by another dog, Jake gets the bone. What a manipulative jerk. After that is a chicken farm, where this incompetent farmer is dealing with a fox sneaking through the holes of the fence and bugging his chickens. All he does is ignore the fact that he just needs to fix the fence and just shoots at the fox with his horrible aim.
No wonder you couldn't hit a barn door at 2 paces.
The fox is a pain to catch, but it is possible. You just have to cut him off when he's running around. After that, the redneck guy mentions an article about the dog catchers, which of course piques Jake's interest, obviously. But the farmer used the papers to line the chicken coop, so you have to play as the other dog to get the papers out of there to get more information. This is where you realize that you have to go to Lake Minnewawa. Oh, that's a mouthful to say. Next up is a village where you encounter a playground and a mother who's looking for her baby's doll.
Rock-a-bye baby in the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock.
No wonder the kid's crying. That is one scary song.
Unfortunately, she's also the laziest person on earth, and it turns out the doll was a mere few feet away from her inside the playground tube. And to add insult to injury to her laziness factor, you literally have to throw the doll into the stroller. She won't pick it up off the ground or grab it from you. Now you're probably thinking, this is a simple objective. Nope. Throwing things precisely in this game is very, very difficult. And I could be wrong, but it feels like pure chance. I mean, maybe there is a method to the madness, but I could not figure it out. And believe me, there's a point later in this game where this will be very problematic. So stay tuned for that, but let's move on. The next big objective is helping a mailman who's terrified of this small dog. So you do the logical thing. You get said dog to follow you and you lock it in the garage. That's a little inhumane, don't you think? A lot of these objectives do have minor tidbits that add to the story, though.
Now, to deliver the mail. Oh, what's this? Win a free trip to the Lake Minnewawa ski resort. Huh.
There's also this kid on the merry-go-round at the playground who's bummed that his friend is grounded or something, and you gotta gain the ability to possess another dog to deliver a letter to her or something. It doesn't really seem to have any effect on the scenario, but at least you get a bone after this nightmare fuel cutscene.
I'm going nuts in here. Hey, what gives? Dear Mary Jane. Wow, this is so cool. You're a smart puppy, Snooky. Here, have this bone.
Next is the shopping district area, which is the last place you need to explore before actually going to Lake Minnewawa. And this is where my favorite line in the entire game is.
Hey guy, wanna join our posse? Bring us some eggs.
So you go behind the building and you shake this chicken like crazy and you get an egg. The kid proceeds to say that you should get him a few more, but as far as I know, you only have to get him that one egg. I guess I'll never join the posse. He throws it at the butcher, who severely overreacts. Jeez, you'd think he was hit in the gut with a rock or something. He then goes towards the kid to yell at them or murder them or something, whatever he's doing. And then you can go into the butcher shop and get food and a bone even. If he catches you, he calls the dog catcher though, but all the dog catcher segments just require you to run away from his dog for like 20 seconds. It's about as easy as it sounds, because the actual catcher himself just kind of like stands there. You can also possess the Doberman to eventually rob the grocery store for a bone, because the cashier is like terrified of him for no reason at all. From there, you hop on the train to finally go to Lake Minnewawa. Eventually, you get a cutscene of the dog catchers who caught Daisy. The guys are total buffoons, and they get a phone call from a woman who looks like she's from Whoville or something.
Would you care for a tissue, Wayne?
Oh, mind your own beeswax, Dwayne.
Hello, Dwayne speaking.
Well, did you collect some nice, clean Clarksville dogs?
Yes, Miss Peaches.
Ah, at last. We're at Lake Minnewawa. It's more of a snowy, mountainous area than I had anticipated, but that's whatever. The first section of this area is a cafe, and this area is a bit of a pain. For one, the main objective is to possess the other dog and scare away a bunch of pigeons, which is just annoying to do. For two, the lake, assuming the lake that this area is named after, is frozen solid, and controlling it on the ice as a dog is very, very difficult to do. And yes, there are objectives pertaining to this ice. There's also a girl who got her coat stolen by some bullies who apparently don't care if she freezes to death. Why are there so many bad people in this game? Now this is kind of where the game goes downhill. The snowy atmosphere is pretty boring in comparison to the quirky small town setting, and the fetch quests just get more and more tedious. For example, you help construct a snowman and you must run all the way over to this building to grab parts for it. And there's just multiple pieces you need, and you have to go through all this trouble just to get a bone. The tasks throughout just feel less meaningful, like getting an RC helicopter off a roof, but you could only go on the roof if you're a husky for some reason. I guess because they're more equipped for snow? I don't know, it's weird. There's also this radio antenna related objective, which the guy cannot communicate at his radio station, so you have to go to the antenna and take bird seed there so the birds get off of it or something. Yeah, this is very bizarre. The guy in the radio station is like comically angry though. After High Street is a hotel area with some more objectives, one of which you have to collect 4 wigs for this pianist because he can't perform without them for some reason. And whenever he performs, the rude people in the audience just throw stuff at him. I swear, everybody in this game's universe is just a horrible human being. The wigs are all goofy, weird choices too, but hey, whatever floats your boat, dude. I'll take the bone. The other main objective of this area is probably the worst part in the entire game. Now earlier I had mentioned the part where you have to throw the doll into the baby carriage. Okay, how about doing that 12 times with a time limit? So basically this guy's hotel is infested with rats, but instead of getting an exterminator, the slumlord asks you to help by possessing his small dog. So basically, you have to catch these rats, which is kind of fairly annoying to do on its own, honestly. It's still doable, but it's a pain. And then you have to throw them into the trash cans. Like I stated before, throwing things as the dog in this game is very problematic. I'm not even sure if there's a guaranteed way to do it. It feels like it's pure chance, and yeah, you get a very generous time limit, but even with that, I managed to take care of maybe 4 of the 12 rats. This game is definitely very smart to have only required half of the bones to move on, because if all the missions were required, this game would absolutely be tanked by this mission alone. After all that nonsense, it's back to the mountain. There's a guy who runs the cable car who's literally trapped in his office because some bumbling idiot decided to park a giant package in front of the door. After that, you basically take charge of this other dog to move a log so you can cross over to the mountainside. There's not much more to do there, honestly, besides some hidden bones. The mountainside's content is also pretty minimal. There's a hill you go up and you have to avoid these boulders, which just seem to endlessly come down for some reason. Thankfully in this game there's no health meter or lives or anything, and you can't necessarily even die. Though if you do get hit by a boulder, you go back to the beginning. At the end of the mountainside, you take control of a St. Bernard, which is giving me flashbacks of a certain other game I reviewed in the past. So you all run up to the mountain climber who's been injured, and he gives you his helmet, which you take to the cable car operator who just happens to be his brother. At this point, it's revealed that the catchers have moved on to a place called Boom City. What a name. I wish I lived in Boom City. A second train pops up, but you can only get into it if you have 51 bones. One more than the dog that's sitting there because Jake's a coward and he's afraid of him for some reason. He's faced up against tons of dogs, climbed mountains, and been all over, but that dog sitting there minding his own business? No way. At least when you have enough bones, the dog just goes away. I mean, I thought I was going to have to out-pee him or something. Cue the ridiculous dog catchers.
I'm covered with dog germs.
Perhaps you may be in the wrong line of work, Wayne.
Oh, mind your own beeswax, Dwayne.
In Boom City, you immediately meet a cop who's bad at his job, and he's just having a hard time finding a criminal, and apparently his police dog is just of no use, so you have to follow footprints and infiltrate a warehouse he's hiding in. This is where the game gets even worse. To get through this warehouse, it requires platforming. A platformer in this game is not, and they clearly are in over their heads when designing this part. It took more attempts than I want to admit just to get across a very simple gap, just because the dog kind of overshoots the jump, even though I stopped touching the controller, just because, why not? In order to catch the criminal, you need to acquire the ability of being the police dog, which it's just a simple chasing game, nothing out of the ordinary here. Allow me to collect the scents, and the game soft lock. It didn't even freeze, it's still on, and the weather in this setting is even sporadically changing during this, but the game just straight out soft lock out of nowhere. Now this could very well be my game disc, but I'm just not inclined to believe that since the game is still clearly working. You know, Dog's Life? I mean, it's not really a good game, but it's interesting, it's strange, you know, I mean, I don't hate it. It's definitely a unique entry in the PS2 library, and it might be the weirdest PS2 game I've ever played, so for that I'm forever appreciative.
Say there, boy, wanna earn a bone? My sheepdog refuses to round up the darn sheep. Can you get her to do the job?